So hello and welcome to Steps to Maths, and we're back in coordinate geometry and we want to find the distance, this distance here between 2 points. Now the last day what we did is we find out how far it was left to right. Left to right are change in x. We use a symbol for change in x sometimes, that's fine. And we found out that we find that distance by taking the x value of couple 2 and the x value of couple 1 and subtracting one from the other. So that's x2 minus x1, which means the x value of couple 2 less the x value of couple 1, which gives us the distance between them, which is 3 take away negative 2, and that's equal to 3 plus 2, which is equal to 5. So we found this distance was equal to 5. To find the distance from here to here, the change in the y value, we took our y value for our second couple, y value for couple 2, and our y value for couple 1. We found out that the distance was y for couple 2 less the value of y for couple 1, which is equal to 17 take away negative 4, which is equal to 17 plus 4, which is equal to 21. So we found out that our x distance, x2 minus x1, was 5, for example. We found out that our y distance, y2 minus 1, was equal to 21. So between 2 points, we were able to find out how far across it was here, from here to here. And we were able to find out how far up it was from here to here. Now today, what we want to find out is we don't want to know this distance and this distance, how far we walk east and how far we walk north. We want to know how far do we walk if we were able to go in a straight line. Now there's a theorem that tells us that we take this number, so we're going to pick a different number just so it works out a little bit better. Imagine this distance here was 12 and this distance here was 5. Our theorem tells us we multiply this number by itself, which gives us 25. We multiply this number by itself, which gives us 144. Okay, we take these two numbers and we add them together. Okay, then we do a thing in order to find out. We want to kind of do the reverse of multiplying by itself. And the reverse of multiplying it by itself is on your calculator. It's called the square root. You may have come across it. The square root of 169 is equal to 13. So that means that 13 by 13 is equal to 169. But to go the other direction, we use this picture, this symbol here, the square root symbol, that gets the square root of that number. That gives us 13. Now, when you get the square root, a lot of the time you're going to find things have decimal places. But this is pretty much straightforward. I'm going to be again giving you two couples. Couple 1, x1, y1. Couple 2, x2, y2. And I'm going to be asking you what is the distance between them. To get that distance, you'll go y2 minus y1, and you'll figure out what that is. You'll go x2 minus x1, and figure out what that is. Whatever that is, you multiply it by itself. Whatever this is, you multiply it by itself. Add those two numbers together and get the square root. It's a bit of a formula, so let's just remember. We've already found the distance before. We found the distance x2 minus x1. You're able to do that. We found the distance y2 minus y1. We know you're able to do that because you did that the last day. What you do now is you take this number and multiply it by itself, and that's called square the numbers. Okay, so step 1, find those distance. Step 2, square the numbers. Step 3, add the numbers, add the square numbers together. And step 4, find the square root. I'll probably ask you to give your answer to a certain number of decimal places. So you've learned how to write things to a certain number of decimal places, so I expect you to be able to do that now as well. So give your answer to whatever number of decimal places I ask. So remember your steps. Find your x distance, you did that last day. Find your y distance, you did that lastly. The new step is to square the numbers. Square means you multiply the numbers by themselves. So if the x distance was 5, you multiply it by itself to get 25. If the y distance was 5, you multiplied by itself to get 25. If the x distance was 12, you multiplied that by itself to get 144. You take these two numbers and you add them together. So take the two numbers that you find when you multiply them by themselves, add them together and get the square root. When you get the square root, in this question I got 13. Generally, you're going to get some sort of decimal numbers. I will ask you it to a certain number of decimal places, and you'll have to be able to do that too. Okay, so just follow the instructions. You already know how to find the distance. That's kind of the hard bit. You were able to do that last day. Now you just have to follow some new instructions, which is a formula to find this distance from these two distances. That formula is called Pythagoras' theorem. We'll refer to it as Pythagoras' theorem. It's his formula. Okay, it means you square the two numbers, add them together and get the square root, and that will give you your answer. So the best of luck with that. No problems to you.